All right, so part 2 of troubleshooting your chair here is going to be, so once we've tested the power supply, we know it has the right voltage, which you should have watched in part 1 of our video. If you didn't, we recommend go back and watching it just to make sure you're going to step by step so that we can diagnose it. Fixing your chair and troubleshooting it is kind of a step-by-step process. It's not always a silver bullet of how we figure it out. We got to kind of diagnose it and figure out what it is, and sometimes it's trial and error. But once we know that the power supply is providing the right voltage, in our case 29 volts, we know that that's good. We have a green light here. We're going to now flip the chair over to the other side. We're going to turn this chair around, flip it up on its back so you can see what the guts are, and we're going to show you what step 2 is. So give us a minute, we're going to flip this chair around. Okay, so now, like I said, in part 2, we're going to flip this thing over. Now, this is the harder part for a lot of people just because we got to flip it. Here's how I recommend do it on a recliner. You can either flip it over onto its side or you can flip it over onto its face. Obviously, if it's in the reclined position, you're gonna have to go over to its side. You can't flip it on its face because that's just harder because it's already reclined. So what you gotta do is either yourself, get some other stronger people to help you, is you gotta kind of just get behind here, flip this guy up, and we're gonna expose what's here in the chair. Never know what you're always gonna find in a chair. There's always stuff, but here we go. So here we're gonna diagnose it. So one of the things we were talking about earlier in the power supply video is we want to make sure there's a green light. One of the biggest signs of an issue is if this shows a red light or an orange light, whatever, just something not green. If it's dead, that's bad. But if it has like an orange or a red, one of the first things we want to do is if the power supply says it's orange or red, the reason is there's a short in the system. Now, if there's a short in the system, that means either the motor's got a short or the button control has a short. So as we were showing you on this chair, you come inside the chair here, the button control, the thing that controls everything, is over here on the side. And that's this cord right here that comes all the way through. It kind of feeds up and through the base of the chair, which is good. We don't want it to be in the mechanism because that's what will short it. And it comes up and it feeds right here, has this little green label on it, and it is a 5-prong connection right here. So the first thing I would do is if you have an orange or a red light, is I would come and find your button control, unplug this, just leave it unplugged, then come back to your power supply. And if your power supply turns green after you do that, you know that the problem is in your remote or your button control. And like I was saying earlier, if it's not the power supply, the most common thing is the remote or the button control. So unplug that. If you go green, you know that the short or the issue is being caused by your button control or your remote. So you've unplugged it, you know that now we got green, that's your problem. So if that's the case, then what you need to do is you can take a picture of your button control for us. In this case, this one has a tag. You can just take a picture of the tag on the button control. Sometimes the tag is on the back if you come on in here. I don't know if you can see it in here, but down here, this is the back of the button control. It's all connected. So the button's gonna come with the whole wire and everything here. That's what all comes with it. Be the same with the remote. Usually it just is replaced by taking 2 screws out. We have another video of how to replace this button. So you can link to one of those and you can check that out. But if I've disconnected this and all of a sudden I go green, that's what you know what it is. Now let's say that you disconnect it and it's still red. If it still goes red and you've disconnected it, that's a sign that we've probably got a motor issue. So like I mentioned earlier, this particular recliner has 2 motors. We have this motor right here and we have the motor up top. And in part 3 of our segment, we're going to talk to you about how to know which motor you have, how to figure out to know which motor you need to have to be replaced, and we'll talk about that in our next.